And away we go, episode 1261 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Monday, February 16th, 2026. It is President's Day, 2026. And so we say a happy President's Day to the presidents of Washington, D.C. area sports, including Washington Commanders team president Mark Klaus, Washington Nationals president of baseball operations Paul Taboni, Monumental basketball president Michael Winger, and Washington Capitals president of hockey operations Brian McClellan. Also, a happy President's Day to a man who starred for both the Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles franchises, former starting pitcher Dennis Martinez. His nickname, El Presidente. Dennis Martinez was part of the 1979 American League champion O's, was part of the 1983 World Series champion O's, and threw a perfect game for the Montreal Expos on July 28th, 1991, during what was his age 37 season. And shout out to one of the greatest gangs of all time, the ex-presidents in the movie Point Break. Hello and welcome to this Monday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. If you consider the weekend continuing on this Monday, given that it is President's Day, we are in the midst of surviving the only weekend of the year on which there is not a single NFL, MLB, NBA, or NHL regular season or postseason game. Now, this is usually the case with the weekend after the Super Bowl, as that weekend usually is both NBA All-Star Weekend and NHL All-Star Weekend, although we, for a second consecutive year, have no NHL All-Star Weekend. Last year, due to the wildly successful 2025 Four Nations face-off. This year, due to NHL players participating in the Winter Olympics in Italy. But we, on this President's Day weekend, have something juicy to ponder. NFL insider Ian Rapoport of NFL Network, he on NFL Network's The Insiders this past Friday, said of the Commanders in terms of free agency and trades in the 2026 offseason, quote, "It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here. The time to spend is now," end quote. Will/should there be, quote, fireworks, end quote, from the Commanders in terms of free agency and trades this offseason? Is it, in fact, the case that for the Commanders, quote, the time to spend is now, end quote? Next segment. In-depth reaction to and discussion of what Ian Rapoport said, especially considering that what he said may not have just been, a flippant opinion. What he said may have been based on intel that he has obtained. The following segment, analysis of the Commanders' revamped coaching staff off a report of yet another edition and off the many demotions and promotions on the staff. This is a very unique coaching staff revamp off the team going 5-12 in the 2025 regular season. Plenty of departures, some notable demotions, but also a good number of promotions. Also on the show, I'll discuss the Orioles off yet another major acquisition. The O's on Friday evening announced having agreed with free agent starting pitcher Chris Bassitt on a one-year contract, which reportedly is worth $18.5 million. The O's, since the end of last season, have handed out a reported $213.5 million in guaranteed money in signing and re-signing free agents. This team is spending like never before. And on the show, we'll talk college basketball as we, over the weekend, had wins for number 15 Virginia, George Washington, and VCU, and losses for Maryland, Georgetown, Virginia Tech, and George Mason. The George Washington win and George Mason loss came in the same game as George Washington routed George Mason 72-53 at the Charles E. Smith Center in Washington, D.C. on Friday night. Before we get to feedback, news from 2026 Washington Nationals spring training in West Palm Beach, Florida. We on Saturday evening had reports that the Nats are signing reliever Cionel Perez to a minor league contract. Cionel Perez, best known for his time with the Orioles, so was really good for the O's in the 2022 regular season, 2.6 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, but he for the O's over the 2023 through 2025 regular seasons totaled minus 1.1 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, so the 2026 season would be his age 30 season. But the Nats in their restarted rebuild here have so few established relievers. Going to be so interesting to see if the team, with its new process based on analytics and sports science, can cobble together a decent bullpen. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Danny Cole on Commanders head coach Dan Quinn. Writes Danny, "Hi Al. I've had a thought since news broke of Quinn promoting Blau to offensive coordinator, and last Tuesday's pressers basically confirmed this for me. Quinn is gone after next season. Obviously, if Blau is a Bieniemy-sized disaster, the team will be really bad and Quinn will get fired. Less so about the defense, since we saw Jaden in the offense overcome a bad defense in 2024, although as a defensive head coach, this should be a huge indictment on Quinn. However, if Blau does have success and demonstrates even part of the potential that surrounds him, wouldn't that confirm the high hopes the organization has for him? And as such, might that put him firmly on the radar for teams with head coaching vacancies following next season? This brings us to the Skins offseason in January 2017. In hindsight, had Bruce or anyone really known what the team had in McVay, they should have fired Gruden and promoted Sean, despite coming off back-to-back winning seasons. At this time next year, would this organization's brain trust have the foresight to make Blau the head coach to avoid a repeat of 2017? I'd hope so, which would mean Quinn is gone. Your thoughts? Thank you for the email, Danny. The scenario that Danny just outlined is exactly the scenario that I outlined on episode 1236, what was the first episode of this podcast off the Commanders on January 10th, announcing having promoted assistant quarterbacks coach David Blau to offensive coordinator. If David Blau does not work out as Commanders offensive coordinator, then that may well result in the team firing Dan Quinn. But if David Blau does work out as Commanders offensive coordinator, then he'll likely become a head coaching candidate. Would the Commanders really want to subject quarterback Jaden Daniels to another change at offensive coordinator? Would the team really want to risk losing the next great offensive-minded head coach in the NFL, a la Sean McVay? So could it be that David Blau, if he works out as Commanders offensive coordinator, ends up being the team's next head coach? And so, yeah, it's possible that Dan Quinn going with David Blau as offensive coordinator will result in the end of Quinn as Commanders head coach, whether Blau works out or not. It's possible that Quinn, in promoting Blau to offensive coordinator, sealed Quinn's fate. Now, the January 2017 situation is so interesting to look back on. The Los Angeles Rams in January 2017 hired Redskins offensive coordinator Sean McVay as head coach. That hiring has worked out quite well. In hindsight, yes, what the Skins absolutely should have done is fired their head coach at the time, Jay Gruden, and promoted McVay to head coach. But Gruden had led the team to back-to-back winning regular seasons over the 2015 and 2016 regular seasons. 9-7 and an NFC East title in the 2015 regular season, 8-7-1 in the 2016 regular season. Not a dynasty, okay, but back-to-back winning regular seasons. First and only time that Washington has done that since the 1996 and 1997 regular seasons. It is reasonable to think that the Skins, in firing Jay Gruden in January 2017, would have been viewed as same old turbulent Redskins with Dan Snyder as owner, even though in hindsight, yes, they absolutely should have fired Gruden and promoted McVay. And, you know, there also is this. There was at least some justification for firing Gruden. The Skins' 2016 season ended in a horrendous way. A gutless, pathetic regular season-ending 19-10 loss to the New York Giants at FedEx Field on New Year's Day 2017 to cost the Skins a spot in the playoffs. I was so furious with our team that day. I could not believe that the Skins lost that game. Washington, amazingly, incredibly, still has not made the playoffs in each of at least 2 consecutive seasons since making the playoffs in each of 3 consecutive seasons, 1990 through 1992. Well, like a well-built team, a well-built wardrobe is about pieces that work together and hold up over time. That's what Quince does best. Premium materials, thoughtful design, and everyday staples that feel easy to wear and easy to rely on, even as the weather shifts. Quince has the everyday essentials that I love with quality that lasts. Organic cotton sweaters, polos for every occasion, lighter jackets that keep you warm in the changing seasons. The list goes on. Also, Quince works directly with top factories and cuts out the middlemen, so you're not paying for brand markup, just quality clothing. Everything is built to hold up to daily wear and still look good season after season. And Quince only partners with factories that meet rigorous standards for craftsmanship and ethical production. I have a Quince blue wool pullover. Looks good, keeps me warm, is durable. It's tremendous. Refresh your wardrobe with Quince. Go to quince.com/Galdi for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/Galdi. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Galdi. Hey, for all of you parents out there with teenagers, we know that you're already trying to keep a million different things under control. Well, Cash App is here to help make sure that your teen's money and spending aren't adding to the craziness. Cash App is designed to meet teens aged 13 to 17 where they are with intuitive and educational tools. Available through sponsorship by an eligible parent or guardian, teens gain access to a personalized Cash App card that comes in different colors and patterns to fit the teen style, and the ability to instantly access money from family and friends. Cash App makes managing money feel easier and honestly just cooler than other options out there. Cash App also has tools that can help teens develop real-world financial habits in a space that's safe and easy to navigate, all with your oversight and approval. If your teen is getting a first job, Cash App can get your teen access to paychecks up to 2 days early and can help achieve personalized savings goals, all within the app. With Cash App, these tools become something your teen will actually want to use because they were designed with your teen in mind. Also, no one wants unnecessary surprises. Well, with Cash App, there are no monthly fees, no minimum balance requirements, and no hidden charges when sending or receiving money. With the Cash App card, you and your teen's balances receive 24/7 fraud monitoring, and if something ever feels off, you have the ability to lock the card right from your phone in just one tap. Skip the stress and give your teen a way to learn financial responsibility with no hidden fees. Download Cash App and get started today, and for a limited time, a new Cash App customer can earn $10. Just use the code FAMILY10 in your profile at sign-up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner or partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Direct deposit and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. Hey, thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and who have written nice reviews of the podcast, who on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. The NFL's 2026-2027 league year will begin on Wednesday, March 11th at 4 p.m. Eastern. We on January 30th had reports that the NFL on that day had informed teams that the league was projecting a salary cap for the 2026-2027 league year in the range of $301.2 million to $305.7 million per club. That would represent yet another massive jump in the cap. The cap for the 2025-2026 league year was $279.2 million per club. So from $279.2 million to at least $301.2 million in just 1 year. The cap as recently as the 2023-2024 league year was $224.8 million. So from $224.8 million to at least $301.2 million in just 3 years. That is remarkable. The Washington Commanders, again, are set to have a lot of salary cap space. This has been the case for years now, but the team for the upcoming league year is projected to be top 5 in the NFL in cap space. Now, this gets complicated because the contract numbers on the top 2 websites for NFL contracts, overthecap.com and spotrac.com, can vary, but the Commanders per overthecap.com are number 4 in the NFL in projected effective salary cap space, $68.695 million. The Commanders per Spotrac are number 5 in the NFL in projected effective salary cap space, $66.507 million. Washington's reputation for being a consistent big spender in NFL offseasons became antiquated years ago. The Redskins, over their first decade with Dan Snyder as owner, behaved wildly and way too often recklessly in free agency and trades. So the most prominent offseasons in this regard were the 2000, 2003, 2004, 2006, and 2009 offseasons. The decade of the aughts was something, 2000 through 2009. However, the truth is that the team starting with the hiring of Bruce Allen as executive vice president / general manager in December 2009 became much more fiscally responsible. Bruce Allen, for all of his faults, got Dan Snyder to calm down with his wild and reckless ways in free agency and trades, and the restraint continued even after Dan fired Bruce in December 2019. Washington, with head coach Ron Rivera running player personnel January 2020 to January 2024, behaved with fiscal restraint. The Commanders, since hiring Adam Peters as general manager to run player personnel in January 2024, have behaved with fiscal restraint. And so the team being more measured in its off seasons has been the case for, believe it or not, 16 off seasons now, 2010 through 2025. In fact, a criticism of the team has been that it has been too measured in its behavior in free agency and trades. And so what about the 2026 offseason? Well, this was NFL insider Ian Rapoport of NFL Network on NFL Network's The Insiders this past Friday, and you'll hear him speaking with NFL insider Mike Garafolo of NFL Network.
Now you have where the Commanders are this year, and they still have a lot of cap space. They're coming off a really disappointing season. A lot of the players they used to build 2 years ago when they made the run to the NFC title game have, no offense to them, gotten a little older. It happens to all of us. It even happens to me and you, Mike. You get a little older and someone says, indeed, it's time to maybe turn the page. Don't turn the page on us. But for the Washington Commanders, I wonder how active an offseason they have. Adam Peters has been aggressive. He has made trades, made a couple of big ones last offseason. It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here, just knowing how important it is, how much space they have, and the window they have with a good young quarterback. The time to spend is now, and obviously this is something we are going to be tracking throughout the offseason, as we are going to be tracking all sorts of things.
So how about that? Ian Rapoport on the Commanders in terms of free agency and trades this offseason. Quote, "It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here. The time to spend is now," end quote. It is not often that a prominent national NFL reporter says something like that. What I wonder about Rapoport saying that is, was that just his opinion, or was that him echoing what he has heard is going to happen? In other words, was that just straight opinion, or was that, shall we say, an educated opinion based on things that he has been told? We don't know. We do know that, yes, the 2026 offseason is an essential, important offseason for the Commanders, and the 2026 season is an essential, important season for the Commanders. They are coming off a disastrous 5-12 2025 regular season. They have revamped their coaching staff in just the third offseason of this football operations regime led by general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn. It sure would seem that Quinn's job is on the line with what happened happens in the 2026 season, and the 2026 season is the final season before quarterback Jayden Daniels becomes contract extension eligible in the 2027 offseason. A few points to make about the Commanders potentially providing, quote, some fireworks, end quote, in terms of free agency and trades this offseason. So first of all, the Commanders, for a third time in 3 off seasons with Adam Peters as GM, have a ton of unrestricted free agents. That is a big part of why the team has so much projected cap space for the 2026-2027 league year. So few players are under contract to the team for next season. The following Commanders offensive players are set to be unrestricted free agents in the 2026 offseason. Quarterbacks Marcus Mariota, Josh Johnson, and Jeff Driscoll. Receivers Deebo Samuel Sr., Noah Brown, Traylon Burks, and Chris Moore. Tight end Zach Ertz. Running backs Austin Eckler, Jeremy McNichols, and Chase Edmonds. And offensive linemen Chris Paul, Andrew Wiley, Trent Scott, and George Fant. The following Commanders' defensive players are set to be unrestricted free agents in the 2026 offseason. Interior defensive lineman Eddie Goldman, Shai Tuttle, and Sheldon Day. Linebacker Bobby Wagner. Edge defenders Dietrich Wise Jr., Von Miller, Jacob Martin, Preston Smith, Drake Jackson, and Jalen Holmes. And cornerbacks Jonathan Jones, Noah Igbenogany, and Antonio Hamilton Sr. And running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. and kicker Jake Moody. They are set to be restricted free agents in the 2026 offseason. The Commanders in the 2024 offseason, what was offseason number 1 with Adam Peters as GM, had a lot of unrestricted free agents, let a lot of them go, and thus signed a lot of external unrestricted free agents. The Commanders in the 2025 offseason, what was offseason number 2 with Adam Peters as GM, had a lot of unrestricted free agents, but re-signed a good number of them. What will happen this offseason? I think that it is very likely that we see something similar to what we saw in the 2024 offseason, a roster purge. That would include the team letting a lot of its unrestricted free agents leave. That would mean that the team would sign a lot of external unrestricted free agents. And so that right there would account for a lot of activity in free agency. That right there would account for the team providing, quote, some fireworks, end quote, in free agency. But of course, what the Commanders did in signing a lot of external unrestricted free agents in the 2024 offseason was mostly sign players to cheap short-term contracts. And the approach worked. So many of those signings worked out in the 2024 season. And that right there is emblematic of an important truth about free agency in the current NFL. The real value for teams is in the cheap short-term contract, not in the big money contract for 3 or more years. These NFL free agency classes more and more are underwhelming because more and more truly great players don't make it to free agency. They get franchise tagged and or get signed to contract extensions. The first question that you should ask regarding a player in unrestricted free agency is, why did his team allow him to become an unrestricted free agent? And so NFL free agent classes in recent years haven't been all that. Doesn't mean that there aren't good players in free agency, but it's important to look at players who are allowed to become unrestricted free agents with your eyes wide open and with some skepticism. Maybe the player is injury prone. Maybe the player is on the wrong side of 30. Maybe the player's production is showing decline. Maybe the player has an attitude problem. It's important to look at these guys who are allowed to become unrestricted free agents and ask why. Why is this guy an unrestricted free agent? And so because so many players who are allowed to become unrestricted free agents are flawed in some notable way, spending big money on a longer-term deal for an external unrestricted free agent is a dangerous proposition. Doesn't mean that it can't work, but the real value in free agency for teams is in the low-risk, high-upside signing that is the cheap short-term contract, i.e. a 1 or 2 year deal. And so if you got excited in hearing Ian Rapoport say of the Commanders in terms of free agency and trades this offseason, quote, it is an essential, important year for Washington, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here. The time to spend is now, end quote. Look, I get the excitement. Heck, I got excited too. But the bottom line with free agency in the current NFL is buyer beware. A team needs to be so careful with spending big in free agency. A head of football operations needs to be smart and tactical with free agency. Adam Peters in the 2024 offseason was smart and tactical with free agency. Will that be the AP who we get in this 2026 offseason? His free agency work in the 2025 offseason was more of a mixed bag, but his free agency work in the 2024 offseason was masterful. Quarterback Marcus Mariota, center Tyler Biadasz, left guard Nick Allegretti, receivers Noah Brown and Olamide Zaccheaus, tight end Zach Ertz, running back Austin Eckler, edge defender Dorrance Armstrong, linebackers Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, safety Jeremy Chin. All of those signings of external, unrestricted free agents in the 2024 offseason worked out for the 2024 season. What's also notable is this. If you look at free agency spending for each NFL team in the 2025 offseason in terms of total value of contracts per Spotrac, 2 of the top 4 spenders were the 2 teams that just played in Super Bowl 60. Number 1, the New England Patriots, $364.37 million. Number 4, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, $205.633 million. So yeah, spending a lot in free agency in an offseason can work. But what the Patriots and Seahawks did in free agency last offseason was spend a lot on a lot. In other words, yes, spent a lot of money, but that money was spent on a lot of players. Neither the Patriots nor the Seahawks last offseason went crazy from a standpoint of handing out a bunch of mega money contracts. In fact, if you go by what matters the most with an NFL contract, money fully guaranteed at signing, the Patriots and Seahawks last offseason in free agency per Spotrac combined to give out just 3 contracts, each with at least $30 million fully guaranteed at signing. The Patriots for interior defensive lineman Milton Williams and cornerback Carlton Davis, and the Seahawks for quarterback Sam Darnold. That's it. 2 of the top 4 spenders in free agency last offseason per Spotrac. Each team made the Super Bowl for the 2025 season, but the 2 teams combined to give out just 3 contracts each with at least $30 million fully guaranteed at signing. Smart and tactical. That's the way to do free agency. Will that be how Adam Peters does free agency this offseason? The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. It has been a Washington, D.C. institution for decades. If you feel that you've been wronged, if you think that you've been wrong but aren't sure, contact the Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers, and schedule a no-obligation appointment. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. Founded in 1979, the Nace Law Group offers fierce advocacy on behalf of medical malpractice, birth injury, and personal injury victims. Led by the great Chris Nace, the Nace Law Group is focused on providing exceptional care and counsel for those who need such things the most. The Nace Law Group fights for what it believes in, you, your family, and your future. You with the Nace Law Group have an experienced advocate on your side. The Nace Law Group has secured millions of dollars in verdict and settlement amounts for clients to better enable them to care for themselves and their families. Call 202-902-7611 or visit WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com and tell the Nace Law Group that Al Galdi sent you. That's 202-902-7611 or WashingtonDCInjuryLawyers.com, and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. The Nace Law Group, Accident and Injury Lawyers. Well, we have another addition for the Washington Commanders' revamped coaching staff. CBS NFL and college football insider Matt Zenitz, he on Friday evening reported that the Commanders are hiring LSU safeties coach Jake Olson, though Zenitz did not specify a title for Olson with the Commanders. They do already have a safeties coach. Their revamped coaching staff includes Tom Donatel, who has been demoted from defensive backs coach to defensive backs / safeties coach, unless he's being being demoted again. Jake Olson, he has spent 3 of the last 5 seasons working for LSU. He spent the 2021 season working as an LSU analyst with his focus on the linebackers. He spent the 2022 and 2023 seasons working as Missouri's linebackers coach, and he spent the 2024 and 2025 seasons working as LSU's safeties coach. The Commanders' new defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, he spent the 2021 season as LSU's defensive coordinator / defensive backs coach. So right there is your connection to Jake Olson. But I mentioned the demotion of Tom Donatel. It is worth noting that the Commanders' revamped coaching staff features various demotions. Anthony Lynn has been demoted from run game coordinator / running backs coach to just running backs coach. Darryl Tapp has been demoted from defensive line coach to assistant defensive line coach, and Tom Donatel has been demoted from defensive backs coach to defensive backs / safeties coach. The Anthony Lynn thing is something. The team reportedly didn't even interview him for its offensive coordinator vacancy, even though he has been an NFL head coach and an NFL offensive coordinator. And now the team has demoted him, despite him this offseason having interviewed for 2 head coaching jobs, those for the Buffalo Bills and Cleveland Browns, and B, despite him prior to his time with the Commanders having been the San Francisco 49ers assistant head coach / running backs coach, February 2022 to February 2024. So he is well-versed in the offense of current Niners head coach and former Redskins offensive coordinator Kyle Shanahan, and the Commanders with David Blau as offensive coordinator seemingly are going with an offense that is at least similar to Shanahan's offense. The Commanders' coaching staff revamp does feature a number of promotions. David Blau has been promoted from assistant quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator. Darnell Stapleton has been promoted from assistant offensive line coach to offensive line coach. Shane Tobe has been promoted from offensive quality control coach to assistant offensive line coach. Jesse Madden has been promoted from offensive quality control coach to assistant running backs coach. Andre Coleman has been promoted from offensive assistant to assistant receivers coach / returners coach. William Gay has been promoted from assistant defensive backs coach to defensive backs / cornerbacks coach. And George Banco has been promoted from defensive quality control coach to assistant linebackers coach. The Commanders still have not officially announced their entire coaching staff, so there still could be more change, a la this reported hiring of Jake Olson. We still have not heard anything definitive regarding whether Brian Johnson is remaining as assistant head coach / offensive pass game coordinator. How the Commanders have handled their coaching staff revamp in terms of announcing the changes has been odd. First of all, the team never officially announced the 3 big departures that happened on January 6th. The team on January 6th parted with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, offensive line coach Bobby Johnson, and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. The team, to this day, has not officially announced those departures, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers on February 4th announced having hired Witt as assistant head coach / secondary coach. Also, the Commanders never officially announced anything about defensive pass game coordinator Jason Simmons. The Steelers on February 2nd announced the hiring of Simmons as defensive pass game coordinator / defensive backs coach. Also, the Commanders never officially announced anything about 3 other assistants who were gone. We on January 31st had reports of 3 assistant coaches being out. Assistant linebackers coach / pass rush specialist Ryan Kerrigan, assistant defensive line coach Sharif Floyd, and player development coach Pete O'Negan. But whatever, the Commanders never officially announcing any of these departures isn't that big of a deal. It's just kind of odd. And then the team this past Tuesday announced hirings and new titles for people on the coaching staff in a very disjointed, confusing way. Again, not a big deal, just kind of odd. The Commanders on January 10th did announce having promoted assistant quarterbacks coach David Blau to offensive coordinator. The team on January 30th did announce having hired Minnesota Vikings defensive passing game coordinator / defensive backs coach Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. And then we this past Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening got official announcements of other changes. Also this past Tuesday afternoon was a press conference for head coach Dan Quinn, an introductory press conference for David Blau as offensive coordinator, and an introductory press conference for Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. We, during the Quinn press conference, had this exchange between Commanders insider Liam Griffin of the Washington Times and Quinn.
You'd mentioned looking at unique skill sets, unique abilities that new coaches can bring in. Right. What are those unique skill sets that your two new coordinators bring?
I think fresh eyes is the first thing. There's an element that goes into new scheme, new ideas that, man, it ratchets everything up quickly about how you can go and put a different lens on some things. And there's a lot of excitement that goes with that. And I'm excited for everyone, in the fall when we unveil how we want to play that play style, that it comes across clearly for everyone. But different for Durante being, outside of the organization, I wanted him to have fresh eyes on just about everything that he could. So it wasn't anybody, hey, this guy can do this guy can do that. I can remember going through that experience of going to other organizations and said, just give me a couple days, man. Let me just dig in, see what we have, and then I can best then give you a picture of where we are and what we need, moving forward. And so it's really the first step into an off season, then it gets into free agency, your own team, the others, then into the draft process. So that first step, I feel like now the momentum starts to really take hold. It's a very important process, much like selecting a player. When you're selecting a coach, they have such a big role as play callers with an organization. And I think you can see this year alone just the amount of changes, offense coordinators, defense coordinators, and we're a part of that. But it also goes to show you, that importance and what can be done in those spaces.
Yeah, and David Blau being a first-time offensive coordinator and Durante Jones being a first-time NFL defensive coordinator make for quite the dynamic in a potential make-or-break season for Quinn as Commanders head coach. We on Tuesday afternoon had this exchange between Mitch Tischler of Monumental Sports Network and Quinn.
With the two first-time coordinators, how important is kind of the support staff and the other coaches in terms of helping them along as they call plays for the first time? And I guess kind of for you, how will things change with the way that you step in with both offense and defense?
Yeah, I'm going to just try to create as much support as I can. I'll probably include more play it, times during OTAs and during training camp just for that purpose and all of us functioning together. And that'll be like, at the top of it to get them. There's nothing like in-game experience, but as close as we can simulate to that as we can. Oftentimes, you'd see all of us with practice scripts, and it's already here. And so there'll be times when those won't apply. We're going to call it down and distance, moving the ball, and get into those spaces. And so you do that on film on your own. You do that on the field, and we're just going to do that. But we do have like I said, an excellent staff to help support these guys and set them up for success.
And for Dan Quinn's sake, those guys better have success. Nova Fireplace and Stove. It is Northern Virginia's go-to expert for fireplaces. Transform the look and feel of your home and increase its value by visiting Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or by visiting novafireplaceandstove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. Nova Fireplace and Stove will make your fireplace elite. And here's what else Nova Fireplace and Stove offers: gas fireplace service and repair, chimney cleaning and brickwork repair, generator installation, panel replacements, and water heater repairs, smoke detectors, security lights, and more. Nova Fireplace and Stove is a family-owned, fully licensed, and insured company with over-the-top credentials, gas and electrical master's licenses, a Class A contractor's license, and a long list of 5-star reviews to back all of this up. Every job includes a free in-home estimate. And for listeners of the Al Galdi podcast, Nova Fireplace and Stove is offering $25 off any service. Just mention that Al Galdi sent you. Nova Fireplace and Stove only works in Northern Virginia and thus knows the homes, the codes, and the people. Your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed. That's Nova Fireplace and Stove in Woodbridge, Virginia, or novafireplaceandstove.com. And make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you for $25 off any service. There are mixed feelings so far at 2026 Baltimore Orioles spring training in Sarasota, Florida. The O's, who have been hit hard by injury in each of the last two seasons, already are dealing with two notable injuries. The O's this past Thursday afternoon, February 12th, announced that second baseman Jackson Holliday on that day had undergone surgery to address a fractured hamate bone in his right wrist. He's expected to miss at least the first few weeks of the regular season. Also, third baseman and second baseman Jordan Westberg, he's dealing with a tweaked right oblique, although that ailment is not expected to keep him out for the start of the regular season. However, also at Orioles spring training is the undeniable reality that the O's are behaving with an aggression like never before. The O's on Friday evening announced having agreed with free agent starting pitcher Chris Bassitt on a one-year contract, which reportedly is worth $18.5 million. And this is a good signing for the O's. So we knew that they were in the market for starting pitching. They ended up signing Chris Bassitt to a one-year deal. The cliche is that there's no such thing as a bad one-year deal, and there's a lot of truth to that. 1 year, $18.5 million. Yes, a lot of money, but the O's are only locked into the one season. Chris Bassitt is an older pitcher. The 2026 season will be his age 37 season, but this guy has been a model of consistency. Bassitt has been very durable. He has made at least 30 starts in each of the last four regular seasons, 2022 through 2025, and Bassitt has been good. He, over the last seven regular seasons, 2019 through 2025, has registered an ERA of 3.60 and an ERA plus of 115 over 192 games, including 188 starts. Bassitt was taken by the Chicago White Sox in the 16th round of the 2011 MLB first-year player draft out of the University of Akron. His MLB experience consists of being with the White Sox for the 2014 season, the Oakland Athletics for the 2015 through 2021 seasons, the New York Mets for the 2022 season, and the Toronto Blue Jays for the 2023 through 2025 seasons. What the Orioles' rotation to begin the 2026 regular season will be is unclear. Orioles starting pitchers include Kyle Bradish, Trevor Rogers, Chris Bassitt, Zach Eflin, Shane Baz, and Dean Kramer. So 6 guys right there. And the O's have other rotation options in Tyler Wells and Cade Povich and Albert Suarez and Brandon Young. You know, there is talk of the O's going with a 6-man rotation, especially with Bradish and Eflin each coming off a serious injury. But whatever the case, the O's have not had this kind of starting pitching depth in a long time. And the O's, off their disappointing 2025 season, are behaving with true urgency. The O's in the 2025 regular season went in American League East worst 75-87 with a run differential of minus 111, which was the second worst run differential in the American League. But the O's, since the end of last season, have made so many notable moves. So the O's on October 27th announced the hiring of Craig Albernaz as manager. The O's on November 4th announced having traded cash considerations to the Chicago Cubs for reliever Andrew Kittredge, and the O's on November 6th announced having exercised their 2026 club option on Kittredge. The O's on November 6th also announced having agreed with free agent outfielder Leody Taveras on a one-year contract. The O's on November 18th announced having traded starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez to the Los Angeles Angels for outfielder Taylor Ward. The O's on December 1st announced having agreed with free agent reliever Ryan Helsley on a 2-year contract with a player opt-out for the 2027 season. The O's on December 11th announced having agreed with free agent first baseman Pete Alonso on a 5-year contract. The O's on December 19th announced having traded 4 prospects and a draft pick to the Tampa Bay Rays for starting pitcher Shane Baz. The O's on December 28th announced having agreed to re-sign free agent starting pitcher Zach Eflin on a 1-year contract with a mutual option for the 2027 season. And now the O's, this past Friday evening, February 13th, announced having agreed with free agent starting pitcher Chris Bassitt on a 1-year contract. Here was Bassitt with reporters on Saturday on why he signed with the O's.
Yeah, I mean, obviously one of the biggest reasons, number one reason, is a chance to win, and not just win a couple games, but it's win a World Series, and I think this team has the ability to do that.
So Chris Bassitt clearly labeling the O's as a World Series contender. He was a big part of the Blue Jays making the 2025 World Series, which they lost in 7 games to the Los Angeles Dodgers. How good is the Orioles rotation? Here was MLB insider Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic with host Alana Rizzo on the Foul Territory YouTube show this past Thursday.
An $18.5 million deal with Chris Bassitt for the Orioles. Are they that much better now in terms of the starting rotation? Good for them.
Alana, that is the question. And if you go back to the start of the offseason, what were we talking about? We were talking about their need and desire to add a top-of-the-rotation starter to go with Trevor Rogers and Kyle Bradish. They traded for Shane Baz. They signed Zach Eflin, and now they've signed Chris Bassitt. Now, Baz, Eflin, and Bassitt will make less than Framber Valdez will make in his first year with the Tigers. That's good in a sense if you're simply worried about the money. But the question is, did they do enough? Because with Rogers, he's a guy that is coming off a season in which he threw about 109 innings. His career high is 133. Bradish, this will be his first full season coming off a Tommy John surgery. His innings are going to be only so high. Baz is a guy who had his first full season coming off Tommy John last year, 31 starts, 4.87 ERA. And you go through the group, there are questions there still. Now, that's the group, that's the 6 that they have, and 6 is a good number, and they've got Cade Povich behind him, and Tyler Wells, they can do some things with him as well. So they're in a much better spot than they were at the start of last season, Alana, but I do question whether they should have gone for Dylan Cease or Framber Valdez or Ranger Suarez or a trade for Freddie Peralta. That's going to be the thing here. Now, if Rogers is the ace that he appeared to be last season after getting it together, if Bradish gets back to being his ace self, and if Baz fulfills his potential, no problem. They've got it. I just don't know that they have it just yet. And it's going to be really interesting to see how we view this going forward, how this team performs with this group.
Well, I like how the O's have attacked their starting pitching since the end of last season from a standpoint of diversifying the risk and not spending a ton on just one starting pitcher. I do wonder about the Shane Baz trade. The O's gave up a lot to get him and made a deal with a really smart team in the Rays. But the tact of diversifying risk and not spending a ton on just one starting pitcher makes total sense given how injury-prone pitchers are. Hey guys, present the best version of yourself via OneSkin, which is the best product for skincare. OneSkin formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin supports the cellular repair that keeps your skin looking and feeling better as you get older. This is not about adding extra steps to your routine. No, this is about swapping in smarter ones. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the promo code GALDY at oneskin.co/GALDY. That's oneskin.co/GALDY and use the promo code GALDY. oneskin.co/GALDY, up to 30% off with the promo code GALDY. And after your purchase, you'll be asked where you heard about OneSkin. Please support our show and say that Al Galdi sent you. Hey, enjoy yourself with no worries. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Well, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best the next day. Enjoy drinks with friends. Enjoy drinks while watching the big game, and don't sacrifice your productivity for the next day. Start your night with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol and wake up ready to show up strong at work, clear-headed, focused, and back to business. Go to zbiotics.com/Galdi and you'll get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code GALDI at checkout. Plus, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Also, subscriptions are available for maximum consistency. That's zbiotics.com/Galdi. Use the promo code GALDI at checkout for 15% off. And let's talk college basketball. Maryland's 2-game winning streak is over. The Terrapins in the 2025-2026 regular season fell to 10-15 overall, including 3-11 in the Big Ten, with a 68-57 loss at Rutgers on Sunday afternoon. The game at the half was tied at 27. Maryland then lost the second half 41-30, and man, was this game ugly. Maryland's offense was so bad, the Terps scored just 57 points, went to 7 for 30 on threes, just 15 for 36 on twos, and just 6 for 13 on free throws. Maryland's defense was good. The Terps held Rutgers to just 5 for 18 on threes and just 17 for 35 on twos. Did allow Rutgers to generate 24 free throw attempts, of which Rutgers made 19. Maryland remained without its best player, 6'9" Texas A&M transfer Pharrell Payne. He did not play for a 14th consecutive game due to a right knee injury. Next up for Maryland at Northwestern, Wednesday night at 8. Georgetown, it for the second time in this regular season, has lost a close game to UConn. January 17th, a 64-62 loss to then number 3 UConn at Capital One Arena. And this past Saturday night, February 14th, a 79-75 loss at number 6 UConn. Georgetown in this regular season now is 13-12 overall, including 5-9 in the Big East. Georgetown in this loss at UConn never held a lead, but did cut a 14-point second half deficit to just 2 points at 77-75 in the final minute of the second half. Georgetown's defense was mixed. The Hoyas held UConn to just 11 for 34 on threes, but allowed UConn to go 14 for 19 on twos, have 20 assists versus 10 turnovers, and generate 25 free throw attempts, though UConn went just 18 for 25 on free throws. So Georgetown was good on threes, but was bad on twos and free throws at 12 for 28 on threes, but just 12 for 27 on twos, and just 15 for 23 on free throws. 55 of Georgetown's 75 points came from just 3 guys, including 2 reserves. So this was not a great game for 4 of Georgetown's 5 starting players, but 6'4" Arizona transfer KJ Lewis, he was terrific. He in 35 minutes, 9 seconds as a starter, had 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 steals, and 3 assists versus 3 turnovers. He went 4 for 10 on threes, 5 for 8 on twos, and 2 for 3 on free throws. Also, 7'1" St. John's transfer Vince Iwuchukwu, he in 24-42 as a reserve had 16 points and 7 rebounds, including 3 offensive boards. He went 4 for 5 on twos, but 0 for 1 on threes, and just 8 for 12 on free throws. And 6'4" Kevin Mulready, 23-45 as a reserve, 15 points and 3 rebounds. He went 4 for 7 from the field, all threes, and went 3 for 4 on free throws. So Georgetown was without 6'5" Baylor transfer Langston Love for a 5th consecutive game. Here was the opening statement of the post-game press conference of Georgetown head coach Ed Cooley late night on Saturday night.
Just taking a deep breath. Great Big East game. Just trying to get my thoughts together here. Obviously a very, very tough place to play. Honestly, I was surprised that there was empty seats up in the section. I mean, you got a national championship team, and this place should be sold out every day. You know what I mean? Like, and I just was shocked. That actually shocked me. You got a top 10 team, a Saturday night game. This place should have been bouncing off the wall on a Saturday night with a team that's out there like that. That's just what I saw. Proud of our men. I thought we got better today. You know, we didn't win the game yet. I thought we improved. I thought our men were really locked in, dialed in. And, you know, we had to withstand a couple of runs, but I liked our maturity. I liked our poise, especially down the stretch. And again, we got to find a way to do the little things to get us over the hump. And when you see what they were able to do, I thought they did the simple things better than us today, and that was the result of the game. So, Big East game, hard opponent. We got to find a way to get us a win on Wednesday when we play Butler. That's our concentration. Overall, proud of our men. I thought our men played hard. I thought we played together. I thought we were connected, and I thought we were tough.
Well, interesting to hear Ed Cooley be critical of the attendance at this game. The official attendance for the game was 10,244. Given Georgetown's attendance problems for years now, the Hoyas are in no position to be criticizing attendance for any road game. I guess maybe Cooley holds UConn fans to a high standard given their reputation for being good fans, but I don't know. So many Georgetown home games for years now have had terrible crowds. This is like the Miami Marlins manager criticizing the attendance for a Marlins game at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Next up for Georgetown, home to Butler Wednesday evening at 6:30. Another ugly win, but another win for number 15 Virginia. It, in this regular season, improved to 22-3 overall with a 70-66 win over Ohio State at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. In the Nashville Hoop Showdown on Saturday night, UVA overcame an 11-point first-half deficit. UVA's defense is mostly good. The Cavaliers allowed Ohio State to go 6 for 14 on threes, but held Ohio State to just 21 for 46 on twos and just 9 free throw attempts, of which Ohio State made just 6. Also, the Cavs held Ohio State to just 7 assists versus 8 turnovers. So UVA won despite its offense being bad. The Wahoos went just 6 for 18 on threes, just 15 for 31 on twos, and just 22 for 32 on free throws, and had just 9 assists versus 12 turnovers. But UVA out-rebounded Ohio State 40-26. And bottom line, UVA won again. The win gave Ryan Odom the most wins for a UVA men's basketball head coach in his first regular season as UVA men's basketball head coach. And UVA in this regular season improved to 10-2 away from home, 7-1 in road games and 3-1 in neutral site games. We, during the post-game press conference of Ryan Odom late night on Saturday night, had this exchange between Jeff White, director of news content for VirginiaSports.com, and Odom.
Ryan, I know that the schedule is backloaded with some home games.
Yeah.
Since the start of conference play, you've been on the road a lot and you've managed to win most of those games. What benefits do you see? Is that something that helps you going into postseason, having proven you can do it?
Yeah, there's no question about it. To play in hostile environments in your conference on the road is always helpful, especially if you have success. And we've been able to find ways to win in a multitude of ways. This group is just pretty resilient. They stick together. They're very connected. I'm very confident that these guys will be connected long after Virginia. There's no question about it. This group is really tight. And I think that's a testament, to them and their character, their families, and it's also a testament to their individual character because they were willing to take a chance to come here in a first year and make the most of it. And every team has one life to live, and this particular team is living that life to the fullest, and you see a lot of smiles in there and happy group. So we just want to keep winning and keep enjoying the moment together because being present is everything.
All right, next up for Virginia at Georgia Tech Wednesday night at 9. A terrible performance by Virginia Tech. It in this regular season fell to 17-9 overall, including 6-7 in the ACC, with a 92-69 loss to Florida State at Castle Coliseum in Blacksburg, Virginia on Saturday afternoon. Tech for this game was a 4.5-point favorite per multiple outlets, and yet the Hokies lost by 23 points. So also Tech was coming off a big win, a 76-66 win at number 20 Clemson this past Wednesday night. This Virginia Tech team is so up and down, really hard to figure out. Tech in this loss at FSU blew an 8-point first half lead. The Hokies in the first half held an 8-point lead at 19-11. They then lost the rest of the game game 81-50. Tech's defense was bad. The Hokies allowed FSU to score 92 points, go 12 for 23 on threes, and 22 for 32 on twos, and have 15 assists versus just 5 turnovers. And things could have been worse. FSU went just 12 for 17 on free throws. Tech's offense was mixed. The Hokies went 9 for 18 on threes and 12 for 15 on free throws, but also just 15 for 37 on twos. 6'5" Tyler Johnson did not play for a 13th consecutive game due to a left ankle injury. Next up for Virginia Tech at Miami, Tuesday night at 8. Disappointing loss for George Mason, which now has lost 2 consecutive games, and a big win for George Washington. George Washington blew out George Mason 72-53 at the Charles E. Smith Center in Washington, D.C. on Friday night. Now, George Washington for this game was favored, was a 3.5-point favorite per multiple outlets. GW is much more of an analytics darling than George Mason is. George Washington for this regular season now is 15-11 overall, including 6-7 in the A-10. George Mason for this regular season now is 21-5 overall, including 9-4 in the A-10. GW led for 37-11 of the game's 40 minutes, won the second half 40-23. Next up for George Mason, home to Dayton, Wednesday night at 7. Next up for George Washington at VCU, Tuesday night at 8. And speaking of VCU, the Rams continued to roll. VCU in this regular season improved to 20-6 overall, including 11-2 in the A-10, with a 78-67 win at Richmond on Saturday evening. The Rams now have won 9 consecutive games. VCU in this win at Richmond never trailed, held Richmond to just 5 for 22 on threes and just 14 for 33 on twos. And this next game for VCU, home to George Washington Tuesday night at 8. That game is being branded by VCU as Havoc Night, at which VCU will honor its 2011 Final Four team. The top 5 teams in Division I men's basketball in the Mid-Atlantic region per KenPom.com for this regular season as of games through Saturday. Virginia at number 20, VCU at number 46, Virginia Tech at number 65, George Washington at number 76, and Georgetown at number 77. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Tuesday's show, episode 1262. We'll have plenty for you on the Washington Commanders. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.
It is an essential, important year for Washington. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some fireworks here, just knowing how important it is, how much space they have, and the window they have with a good young quarterback. The time to spend is now, and obviously this is something we are going to be tracking throughout the offseason, as we are going to be tracking all sorts of things